Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pestana. And we're here today with special guest, Phakchok Rinpoche, who's here to share with us his new book, Awakening Dignity, a guide to living a life of deep fulfillment. Now, Phakchok Rinpoche is a beloved Tibetan Buddhist master and the abbot of several monasteries in Nepal. He was recognized at the early age of 1 as a reincarnated Buddhist master. He travels the world teaching in Buddhist centers, universities, and monasteries. And we're so delighted to have him here with us today. So let's welcome to the show, Phakchok Rinpoche.
Thank you.
What an honor it is to have you here to talk about this book. What inspired you to write this?
I met a precious teacher in my life that humble at the same time. They don't lose their presence. So I'm very inspired just meeting these special teachers. So that is the reason behind. And second, personal reason is I think many of us, we go through same, going through transformation in life. So I had the experience of sometimes low self-esteem, sometimes people judgments and judging yourself and all that kind of confusions. And I think almost all of us go through some of the degree. So finding my example of my teachers and meeting them and seeing them, the most amazing part is humble, sincere, and down to earth, but at the same time, they don't lose their presence and dignity. And that is the really inspiring for my personal. So that is the one reason, personal reason. And so throughout my journey, my own path, so whenever I give talks and speech, and I always highlighting dignity in the talks, more than sometimes compassion or meditation or present moment or love or kindness, like that. So Professor Suchin heard many times about the dignity. So Professor Suchin said, this is very, very important that need to bring down to the book. Then I say, okay, that's very, very good. And that is my personal, actually, kind of journey, seeing a little bit progress of myself and seeing complete progress, completely presence of dignifying and sincere and completely down to earth and nothing to lose. That kind of people that I met. So that is really inspiring.
I found your book to be completely inspiring. I learned so much. And I would love for you to share with our listeners at what point, just on your path, like when were you recognized as a reincarnated Lama?
When I was 1 year old, they recognized me as somebody, some special kid or something like that. But the real transformation of my dress and name when I was 8 to 9, somewhere there, and they shaved my hair and they enthroned me, basically.
Well, it seems that your book contains such great wisdom. It's easy to see that correlation. And I really love how your book started off making it just really easy. I mean, you talk about this person that comes to you and is asking for advice because they just don't feel that they're in this place where they have any dignity, but they look like they have everything.
Mm-hmm. I think 100%, in 100%, I'm going to give 95% the credit, all that my journey to my precious teacher. And 5% is my own experiences, all the people that I met in my life who are nice and who are a little bit not nice, and all of that give me such a experiences. And the guidance of my precious teachers and important points guide me in my life. And so really, honestly, it's all their kindness.
It's all that wisdom brought down. Well, thank goodness we have people like you that are sharing this, because I feel like so many people are learning so much. And we talk about people who just don't feel good enough, and you started with that a little bit. You talked into how we have these kind of thoughts. What do you think drives that?
I think it's not negative, honestly. It's actually is a kind of positive. But that driving force, I think, is actually does not come from ignorance, but I think it comes from wisdom, because our innate nature is completely perfect, and dignity is already present. Loving kindness, compassion, and peace, all this great word that we use in all the spiritual world and non-spiritual world. For humankind, I think this all arising from the nature, from all of our beings. So now our affliction mind, basically complicated mind, searching for something, then the wisdom time to time shine through, then we confuse. So now then we always look for we are not perfect and we need to be perfect, or all other different questions and searches. Then we think, I think is actually not negative. I think it's actually very positive.
So when we talk about awakening dignity, what does that really mean?
Actually, awakening is more like reconnecting, or you can say re-reminding or reconnect to our own nature. So awakening is mean the complicated mind to recognize that actually is not a really big deal, not that difficult to handle, the complicated mind that we have, and actually we can see the nature quite easily. So that is mean awakening. It's like we have a nightmare, and a terrible nightmare, but to really get out from that terrible nightmare looks like permanent, but you just need to open eye and just awake. And that simple steps makes you terrible permanent suffering going to be changed within few steps. So I think awakening dignity is like reconnecting towards our nature.
It really feels like that point of remembering who we really are.
Yes.
How would you say that dignity in Western cultures is different from those of a Buddhist perspective?
The Buddhist perspective of dignity is actually free from self-centered, and Western perspective of dignity is all about self-centered. So I think the biggest difference is that. So when I say to realize a nature, to all our nature is perfect, at that moment, I don't own the nature to me. It's not my nature. It's not me. It's not anything. It's nature. So you are not seeing part of it, or you actually seeing the whole of it. So when you say it's my nature, you actually sort of, making the nature as diluted, as a self-centered, self-focused, self-centered. So I think the biggest difference in the Buddhist perspective of dignity is centered on yourself, and Western dignity, I think, most of the time is focusing on yourself centered.
I think that's so interesting, and making that shift. Do you feel like more Westerners today are looking to make these changes to move from that self-centered?
I think the whole world, for thousands and millions, thousands of years, everybody going through that transformation journey, whether east, west, south, north, and but now Western is more interested because now we have these technologies and internets, and the information is getting everywhere in the world. So the Western people have much more exposure. So now they can look differently. But in Asia, then much more people are already connected to this, and some they make as a spiritual journey, some that make a religious belief, and some make as a culture. So that is their own choices.
And I know in your book you talk about that we're inherently wealthy. And I'd love for you to explain that for our listeners, because I think sometimes maybe some people aren't feeling very wealthy, especially now with everything going on.
Yeah. Actually, for me, it's very simple to understand. It's just going to, when you walk on a beautiful natural forest, walking trail, at ease, whatever you see is actually very inherently clean and inherently is quite nice. The water is clean, serene, and all that. So actually, our nature is when you live it as is, our mind, the reflections. So how to live it is actually just stay in the moment. Is very easy to understand for Western thinkers, listeners. Present moment, mindfulness, but we have many different ways to say, but basically just letting be as it, then everything becomes more serene and clean by nature. You don't need to clean. Look at the world. We try to clean, but we don't need to clean. We just leave it to the nature. It's actually going to clean up by itself. So I think the best example is just look around you. The natural forests are beautiful. Natural water is more serene and clean. So our human being always damaging everywhere. So similar to ourselves. That is the real begins to ourselves. We make more. It's a simple solution to the problem, and we make such elaborate.
And understand, they say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're kind of mirroring what's happening in the environment around us.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. That is I think everybody. Yeah, everything's like that. Whatever we are ourselves, I see this to me. We are very complicated. We make ourselves very complicated, and we try to solve the complicated and more complicated antidotes. So that becomes more complicated. So actually, it's a very simple. Just being in the present moment is the easiest way, or letting go, resting at ease is actually the solution.
It seems that we want to make things so difficult, as it just complicated, as you were saying. And so we're looking, as you said, for these elaborate answers to things that, from your book, I learned if we just get to know ourselves and slow down, things start to even out a bit.
I think sometimes when human beings becoming more knowledgeable and thinkers and all that, we always assume that our emotion is very, very complicated too. But actually, our emotional is actually not that complicated. We make it complicated, but actually very easy to deal with. So why we feel so difficult about it? Because we have now empowered. We are the people, we ourselves empower our own emotions, whether it's positive or negative. So we empower that emotion is so important. So now we need to find a solution, more important, more elaborate. So that is what is happening in our dignity, awakening dignity point of view. Make that more simple, make more easy. It's your mind, it's your emotions. It's nothing difficult. Just learn, reflect, let go. Quite a few steps only.
I know in your book you share about an experience you had when you were when you were experiencing learning about yourself and about happiness and anger. And I found that so fascinating, because I think so many people go through that, where they're having these issues where they feel like they're on the roller coaster. I'm happy, or I'm angry, or I'm upset, or these different things. And they're looking to have that just smooth, even keel and get to this place where they can not let the outside world affect them so much. So how do we get there?
It's actually we are already innate. We already have that nature. So it's just to make ourselves, it's not that difficult. Our nature is pure, our nature is profound. So we need to begin with that. I think is the most important. Then we use some exercise to reflect our mind and our behaviors, our habits, then slowly using some other exercise of kind of meditation to letting go or staying in the present moment, and just slowly by slowly, and always reciting a mantra that our nature is perfect, our nature is already have dignity, nature is inherently is dignity. So that is the very, very important. But the one most important that I want to remind to and make more clear, that nature that I'm talking about, all our natures, is not created by anyone. It's not created by you, not created by him, not created by no one. It's when it's created, then it's not nature. So it's uncreated, inherently presence and loving kindness, calmness, and freedom is free, is actually present. So the main point is you need to find within yourself and just go through the process. It's not going to be the same, everybody. Everybody have different time and different process. So we don't compare with anybody. You just go through your own process, use the techniques, use that exercise, and go slowly by slowly progress.
Yes, I love how in your book you have dignity training, and I really paid very close attention to that. And I like how you say it's our own separate process. We're not racing with somebody else.
Yes, everybody is a unique. Everybody has a quality. So everybody has a different time to process.
So in your book, you talk about inner dignity. So what are some of the steps we could use to cultivate that in our everyday life?
I think the most important part, the inner dignity, when first you need to recognize, I think the most important part, because right now our confidence in life, we think is dignity, most of us, but the confidence is very much infused with our self-centered ego. So it's a very much pride. Pride does not go along with the humbleness. So what is the big difference of inner dignity is when you have some glimpses of experience of dignity, like a little bit self-confident, then when you put yourself very humble, put down completely to the earth, lower than the Lord or every existent being, that time you don't lose at anything. You don't feel fear, you don't feel uncomfortable, you don't feel low, or you don't feel anything to lose. That means you have experienced the inner dignity. So that dignity can be very useful in working life. When people treat you something negatively, it's not going to be affected that much as when you are proud, confident pride, self-centered pride. So that is the big difference. So we need to know slowly by slowly the differences through our own experiences of inner dignity and the self-centered confident. That means called pride. That is a big difference. So that's why the most important tool that I think is the most easiest is when you put yourself the lowest and lower, you don't lose at anything. You don't have feeling of losing, and that means you are not self-centered. That confident is now through slowly becoming. You can say, I have inner dignity is now shining through, but not the self-centered. So the really measuring tool is putting yourself humble, being humble.
I think so many people may have difficulty with finding that place. I know it's even something I've struggled with here and there, and I always work for that, towards that. So I really appreciate you sharing how we put ourselves at the very bottom so we can understand that there's nothing to lose.
Exactly. So that is how. Why we feel difficult. I understand why we difficult, because that is what we survive to. We survive in this world, not really easy. In the world, we have many people. Some people lie, some people do backstabbing, some people scold you, some people mistreat us. Sometimes you being humble and nice, you don't get things what need to be done, and when you need to be harsh and a little bit more angry temperament, and then you can see the work done faster. People more pay respect, or people more put attention to you. So we experience that so many times in life. So we think that is the tool that we need to use it. But that is actually becomes more and more become habit, then becomes more difficult to change. Then we becoming more unhappy, and we create unnecessary problems with our loved ones.
Yes, that unnecessary suffering is created
Yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
I know in your book you talk about that the Buddhist path can be divided into categories, mind and its nature. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that with us.
Mm-hmm. They basically, when we practice in life, we use our reflection to check ourselves. Like first, I like to say in a book, Mirror of Heart, Know Yourself. So this topic is very important, that to reflect and check yourself. I can say that in the Western country now, more people doing more meditations. But sometimes I like to say, just doing meditation can be blind. Meditation is blind sometimes, actually many times. So we need to use reflection, knowing yourself. Know yourself meaning checking our habits, good habits. But very important, need to use the right way. So noticing our faults, noticing our qualities, but don't judge. The differences that I like to say is noticing is you see it, but you don't have extra emotion. But when you judge, you have extra emotions, such as I have good quality. I'm so happy with myself. Wow, I have this quality. Or opposite of that, oh, I did the mistake. Why I did this? I feel so sad. I'm so bad. And all that kind of extra emotions, arises through judgment. But noticing does not produce any strings of emotions. So that is the difference of reflection. So that's why in Buddhism, when we say mind and the nature, innate nature, the mind is a need to transform through reflecting and learning to noticing, but not judging. And that takes a long time, because a lot of people completely mess out with the noticing and judgment. It's completely mixed now, completely mixed. So need to learn to differentiate what is notice and what is judgment through slowly progress through your own experiences. Then it opens up. I think that this is the most important exercise and principle. I think is a very, very important principle. Without this, just sitting down for half an hour or hours meditation is not going to be so much benefit. Benefit because it makes you calm, a little bit transformation, but it's very short. It's not going to be awakening. It's going to be transformed a little bit, but that's it. So that is the most important part. The nature, then we need to talk more about, go more a little bit deeper. So first you're reciting, our nature is perfect, and we don't believe that. many of us. So it's okay. It's not about believing. It's about the reminding. And it's not about believing. It's not about believing me, of course. But just reciting, my nature is perfect, nature is perfect, nature is innate, nature is dignity, innate nature is dignity. And slowly through the different exercise. And you actually, one day, you're going to recognize that actually dignity is our nature.
What a great way to pivot and to keep on track with that, because you're right. I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of looking at this going, well, I don't believe my nature's perfect, but saying those mantras, man, those have to be so helpful.
Yes, it's really, really helpful. This mantra is very, reciting is very helpful, but just feeling good after chanting and feeling like I have now dignity, exciting with that is actually not the really right way. And I know what I'm saying because I'm a very excited person myself. So that does not go well. So when you recite, you feel good. Don't stop there. Reflect that feeling happiness sometimes is a hidden self-centered pride. So you need to see that. That's why noticing and not judging, but know yourself is so important.
You had so many great teachers. In your book, you share about meditation teachers. Who would those be?
The first, my teacher is my precious grandfather. His precious name is Truku Ujien Rinpoche. I is my father, late father's grandfather. So my grandfather, and he's a very intelligent, wise, but the most important, amazing that I see, so humble, genuine, humble, and so caring to people. And his meditation is so good, but he never show off to anybody about his meditation. Anyway, I look at he's represent many good qualities that I inspire, and I learned from him. Then after, when I was 18 years old, I met my meditation teacher. His precious name is Nyushu Rinpoche. He is living in Bhutan, in the small Himalayan kingdom between China and Nepal and India. Small kingdom, and I spent time with him. And again, he's very much meditated master. And now, when I was 37, then I met my precious teacher too. So right now he's in his life. I'm very fortunate. Yeah, this is a very precious masters that I have.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to go through that. In your book, you talk about sticky mind. What is that, and why do we need to be friends with it?
It's a very interesting because many of us say that it's okay, we just listen, but we don't need to pay attention. It's not going to be effective to me. Many people say this, sometimes some situation, somebody telling to me about somebody else, and I telling myself, it's okay, just listen to that person, but I'm not going to pay attention. But the few percent actually stays in your mind. And that affects how you think, how you say, how you judge, how you do things. So you right away judge the person by the information that you heard. So that I seeing that almost everyone is like that. So our mind is so sticky, whether it's a good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. We completely sticks with us. So that's why it's really easy to fall into a lot of problems, unnecessary issues. So that's our first, you don't make that sticky mind important. So the best way is you make a friend. So you don't make as an enemy, you make as a friend. Say, okay, now I can find this. So I'm going to deal with that. So you can actually deal much easier when you make a friend, because our thought and our emotions is expression of our nature. So why you need to make negatives everything. Can be anger, but anger can be sometimes useful. So you don't make anger as negative, but you say anger have quality, but you just want to transform that. Don't want to do any particular excuses to do negatives, but I want to transform, but through making friends, not making, empowering the negative thoughts to make more powerful.
So does sticky mind, is that like the root of our negative emotions?
Mm, not really root. It's more like a condition, more like a all useful condition. Yeah, is sticky mind. But the root of the cause is self-centered, self-centered, self-observed, self-centered universe is me. I am the middle of the whole universe. It's actually quite problematic. And I'm still, I'm still going on my own transformation. And I can see that is the quite, I need to make a lot of friends with that.
I think many of us do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that sticky mind. My goodness. Well, I mean, there's so much great information in this book. Another thing that you talk about is healing from the habit of judgment. And oh my goodness, that could be such a big one, especially in Western culture. I mean, how do we even get there?
I think, the I don't want to say negative is the doing something, somebody doing something and you see the doing something wrong and you want to say something or you want to stop the person to do wrong. I don't think so is a bad actually. So the issue that I find out is when you try to go to solve the problem, but the most important, you should not be part of the problem. And what happened to me, and I see many times that you become part of the problem. You actually wanting to solve, but then you become part of the problem. So that happens because of you can check yourself. When you have upset of something and you sort of going through that thoughts and that picture, that memory, the feeling that you're going through, that upset, something situation that happened. And you're actually telling yourself, it's okay. Just let this thought go. Let this memory go. But still it comes in. And you how much you try is keeps coming in, slowly sips in. So you can see that you actually becoming more part of it. So you say it's okay. I'm going to make friends with you. I see you. I'm not going to judge anything. Okay, now I'm going to chant my own mantra. Nature is dignity. Nature is perfect. Nature is perfect. Nature. So you recognize, you notice what is happening with your mind. Just let them be. That is how you make friends. So now you start judging. Oh, I cannot let go. Why I cannot let go? Why is so problem with myself? That again, empowering. That situation happened, but you're actually empowering that situation more difficult to handle. So looking at that, now you see somebody's doing somebody problem, then you can see that it's actually, you can see that same situation that happening with our mind, with innerly, you can look at them outwardly. It's exactly the same thing. So many of the time we become part of the problem, not the solution, because we judge. Then we have self-centered and our mind is sticky. Then we judge, then we become part of it.
I find it interesting because once we start getting into that place of judgment, that's when we then become more engaged or a part of the problem because now we are there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Then when you have self-centered and judgment and sticky mind works very, very well, then we don't see the solution. We don't see the solution. We say, I see the solution. And that is actually the self-centered, egoistic pride saying that. And who doesn't have pride? Everybody has it. So now imagine you have this, everybody has protect our own pride. So we're going to do all the, we need to do all the things to protect our own self-centered pride. It's so fragile. It's a glass box, glass house. So that's why we really need to recognize nature is perfect, nothing to lose. Nobody is created, no nature created. Nature is present, perfect. So you recognize that more, and then you don't feel your mind is not going to be so sticky, your judgment not going to be so strong.
So, how do we get to a place where we can then love courageously for the things that maybe our sticky mind is trying to get us to think otherwise?
Because I can see that, I can give you very short answer, but just want to give me a permission to say a few more words or a little bit more explanation.
Of course.
Okay, so when I see the world, especially in the West, so many people interested in yoga and spirituals and meditations and mindfulness, and now slowly compassions and all that. But actually, when you don't have no dignity, non-self-centered, non-judgment dignity, actually compassion does not improve, progress gradually. Without knowing dignity, meditation does not work how the meditation should work, but it's not going to work fully. Without having dignity or experience dignity, your decision making in life is not going to be profound. I'm not going to say that dignity is the only answer, but I'm going to say that dignity is one of the pillar of the spiritual improvement. But I don't hear much the influence. I only hearing compassions and mindfulness and meditations and yogas and all that. But what about the dignity? What about reflection? What about the mind, sticky mind? What about how to notice without judgment? What is the way to do it? So I think to combine all that perfection, to increase the compassion gradually and really immensely without losing anything, or love someone who really, really no need to be fear to lose it or whatever, is actually inherently pure, inherently nature, inherently perfect. Is something that is you don't have nothing to lose, because it's not created by you, it's not created by anyone. So it's completely inherently perfect. So with that, you don't lose it. When you make something new, you worry about losing it, or you worry about getting less. But it's inherently perfect. There's nothing to go less. It's limitless. So that's why when you say compassion, I always refer innate nature is compassionate. Wisdom, innate nature is wisdom. Happiness, innate nature is inherently happy. Innate nature is inherently dignifying. So now you look at the compassion, it's already limitless. Now you look at the happiness, it's limitless. So how you identify all that things that we search for, I think that we're looking a little bit sideways, but you should look at it more inherently, uncreated, perfect. Then I think you're going to be in the right way.
When we cultivate compassion and loving kindness, like true compassion, does that require that we also use wisdom?
100%. 100%. When I look at compassion, I can look at compassion as like a whole human being body. So to function body correctly, you need to have different organs to function correctly. Like that, compassion is actually part of one organ. So you need to have different part of other organs to function. So definitely you need to have wisdom. Definitely you need to have dignity. Definitely you need to have loving kindness. Definitely you need to have sympathetic joy or joy. So compassion need all that to be perfected. In the Buddhist traditionally, when we practice compassion, we need to practice all other entities. This part of the practices needed. Just only take out compassion, not going to be perfect.
You have so many stories in your book that help us understand all these different points that we're making today. Do you have one for compassion and love in action?
First and most important, I think we need to recognize what does mean compassion. I think the beginning of introduce compassion to our own self is in a sympathy. So in a sympathy as a, oh, the really poor guy, I need to give him, something. Who is searching for something, I need to give him. So that is the beginning of introducing yourself. What is compassion? But the real compassion begins when you put yourself at other people's place. So one time one time in America, I love coffee. And normally I don't drink much, but that time somehow I'm drinking almost every day for over a month. So every morning I need to drink a coffee. So I become a little bit habit in that time. So one day I walking on the street, so I throw half of my coffee on the dustbin or the garbage area. So there one person walked by, he took it, my half left coffee, and he drank. So that moment I put it myself in his position and think, oh, I'm a person who love coffee in the morning. So he doesn't have money to buy. So I drank somebody's leftover. So I put it that position. The moment that position I put it in, I myself in the person's position, the person's perspective or the position. Then moment I want to go buy new coffee and give to him. That action was not about being happy that I'm doing something good or I need to do good or I'm making something good action or I can merit or something. I just do it because of that is the right way. So that is the beginning of introducing a genuine compassion. But it's not really 100% genuine, but it's genuine compassion in the beginning level. So that is the process that I went through. So the genuine compassion, when you are completely, sincerely from bottom from your heart, only thinking benefit of others and completely wishing all being free from suffering. And that's it. No counting merit, no counting benefits, no counting happiness, no counting self-hero or savior mentality, without any single pinch of anything, just completely sincerely from bottom from your heart, having thought and emotions or wish, I wish all being happiness, I wish all being free from suffering. That's it. And that sincerely from bottom of your heart, that moment, that how you experience is you completely free. That moment you sincerely, completely free from where? Actually, that moment you're completely free from your self-centered to ego. That moment, and that is the genuine compassion.
It sounds like it's moving away from doing something and then feeling good and then kind of that cycle to really being equal with others.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Then from there, then you start doing action. From that moment, then you begin to doing act. The act is completely going to be different. It's completely different. You're not going to be. You're going to do it from your bottom, from heart, from naturally, from the, naturally, from the completely humbly. It's going to be completely different. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be hero mentality, savior, feeling good. Buddhists like to accumulate merit, so it's all that kind of things is not going to be there. Buddhists going to accumulate merit, and spiritual people like, I'm so happy that it's good. So counting happiness, counting merit, counting benefits, all going to be free. So it's going to be quite important to understand. That is the compassion that we talk about.
Such a great lesson, and I'm learning so much. My goodness. And I know, there's so much in your book, and we're not even touching a portion of it. There's just so much great information. You also talk about carefree ease. What is that?
That is something I think many of us we cannot relate it easily in the beginning, but is a very important guideline for people who want to meditate or want to practice awakening dignity or want to practice compassion to reflect yourself and transform. Something that you want to measuring tool that we need to, spiritual progress or awakening dignity progress is actually carefree ease. So when you experience the genuine compassion that I mentioned to you just before, or innate nature, the dignity, when you experience, so that moment you are completely free from praise. Somebody praise you with you feel happy. Somebody criticize you feel unhappy. You gain something, are you happy? You lose something, you're unhappy. People respect you, you're happy. People disrespect you, not happy. And all these experiences is not going to be diluted you. It's not going to be influence you. Our mind not going to stick with these situations. So that means that moment you are actually carefree. And the experience is going to be ease. So you're not going to be tense. You actually, the real, genuine freedom is going to be that moment. So that is not created by, this experience is not created by you or me. That experiences that I mentioned to you, carefree ease that you actually mentioned, is actually, you can say, awakening the dignity is expression of a dignity, innate nature dignity. The expression is actually carefree ease. So the moment you say that, I experienced that, through my work of my meditation and my practices, awakening dignity exercise, now I have this carefree ease moment that you mentioned that, then you actually putting copyright by self-centered ego pride to the genuine expression of inner dignity expression. Now you're copyrighting your ego pride, copyright on that. So it's going to be diluted. The moment you experience carefree is you just say, that is inner nature expression. Thank you to all the beings, all the nature. So right away you must be humble. Put yourself down. That is how you let go, maintain the carefree ease without having any sticky mind comes.
Oh, I see that. I appreciate you sharing that because it could be so easy for that sticky mind to show up.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I want to say the detail on that, because I know many of us we're going to go through this. So I better say now. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, Phakchok Rinpoche, it has been such an honor to spend this time with you. Thank you so much for making the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Marianne. And thank you, Professor Suchin. And thank you, the Shambhala. And thank you and all the listeners. And I wish all of you be happy and free from suffering. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Phakchok Rinpoche. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Awakening Dignity, A Guide to Living a Life of Deep Fulfillment. If you'd like to connect with Rinpoche, you can at his website, which we'll have on our website, mariannepestana.com, You can also learn more about Rinpoche and his upcoming events, teachings, and charitable activities at his website. That is spelled PHAKCHOKRINPOCHE.org. You can learn more about Rinpoche and purchase Awakening Dignity at Shambhala Publications. That is shambhala.com. The book's also available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. Remember, support our indie bookstores, and if you don't see it on the shelf, just ask for them to order it. Well, we're going to pause here for a quick moment. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after this message. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.